Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be going over my current luxury beauty favorites. I thought I would just do an updated routine just because it has been a few months, and I always like to keep you guys updated on if I am loving new products or older products, what has stayed consistent in my everyday routine. So these are just everyday beauty favorites. Let's get started with the complexion. And honestly, my favorite complexion products has been the brand new Chantecaille Future Skin Gel Foundation. And I am so grateful that Chantecaille sent me the foundation because I actually purchased it myself, but then I purchased the wrong shade, so I had to send it back. And I was going to just get a new shade, but Chantecaille actually had sent me these over before I got that new shade, so I just ended up returning it. But that is something I would totally purchase myself. And I will repurchase once I run through this foundation. But I can wear the shades Nude or Vanilla. Nude is a little bit deeper, so it works like I'm pretty freshly fake tan. So this would be my shade currently. But as my tan fades, then it will fade away to Vanilla. So it's kind of nice that I have both shades available. I always just scoop a little bit into the palm of my hand, and I always mix it. I use this basically as my palette. And I will mix it onto the palm of my hand so that I can evenly distribute it onto my brush and then onto the skin that way. I just find I get the best blend when I apply product this way. And so I will tell you the reasons why I am loving this Chantecaille foundation. And I've just gone in with my skincare underneath. I don't have any primer on or anything like that on an everyday basis. I don't usually wear a primer. I just find it kind of excessive, like it's just an unnecessary step. Unless I have like a super long day or it's a special occasion, but just on an everyday basis, no, I'm not going to go in with a primer. So the reason why I love this newly reformulated foundation, and I do think that the foundation is different enough that you could have both in your routine. I personally prefer the reformulated version. And I think it's because I find that it almost sets down onto the skin a little better. In my opinion, I think that the new formulation has a little bit more coverage, and I'm not sure if I feel like it has more coverage because it almost has a bit more like mattification, and I don't mean matte in a dry way. I just mean that it seems to set down onto the skin better. And definitely, I always said this about the previous version, that I didn't think you needed powder because it sets down on its own. Well, I definitely don't think you necessarily require powder, especially if you're someone with drier or mature skin with this foundation, because in my opinion, it does set down on the complexion. And again, it doesn't set down to a dry, powdery finish. It just sets down so that it's not sticky, it's not tacky, it's not going to transfer or anything like that. And it's just a beautiful product. I also find that this one is more blurring than the previous version. So it definitely has more skin perfecting properties to it, and not in the way where it's going to add just a ton of coverage. I don't mean that by blurring. I mean that there's just some blurring technology in this, and that even though this is not giving you a heavy full coverage, I think it's buildable to a medium coverage. It's still very blurring on the complexion, and it just evens out the skin tone in this really gorgeous filtered way. And it's so pretty. I feel like this is going to work for a really great variety of skin types as well. If you have drier skin, this is hydrating enough on your dry skin. It feels very cooling. So it's great for the summer months. And then if you have oily skin, because it has a little bit of that mattification, it's going to be gorgeous on your skin. I just feel like this is a gorgeous all-around foundation that I feel like I could recommend to anyone. This is a foundation that I also recommended. Obviously, Chantecaille just had their big sale, and I recommended it to my mom, and my mom picked it up. I'll let you know, maybe I'll put a little box up here letting you know how she liked this foundation. But she was just looking for another alternative because she loves her Chanel Sublimage L'Essence du Temps and her Cle De Peau cushion. But she was looking for something different. So I did recommend this one to her. And I think she's going to love it. So again, I'll let you guys know. But it just is a really beautiful foundation. And I love that it holds up in the summer months, because even though this is lighter coverage, it's still going to wear all day long. Even though like today is a very hot, humid day, I'm going to be able to wear this all throughout the day, and it's not going to look trashy at the end of the day. Like sometimes foundations just do not hold up well, especially in the hot and humidity, but because this is so lightweight and light coverage, I actually find that it wears really beautifully. And because it has that more matte finish, that blurred finish, I find that it just wears really well in the hot weather. So that is just such a plus when you want a makeup look where it doesn't look like makeup on your skin, like you cannot detect makeup sitting on your skin, which is what I love about this foundation, but it's also long wearing and it's going to wear beautifully throughout the hot weather. That's just something that I find that you can't actually find in a lot of foundations. So this is just a very special foundation. And I know I'm gonna love this in the fall and winter months as well. So I'm just very excited about this foundation. I have a little spot just in the center of my forehead, which is right where you want a little spot. So I'm just gonna go in with my Cle De Peau concealer, and I'm just pretty much spot concealing. I'm doing a little bit more generous in a spot conceal, but I'm lazy, so I'm just using this big brush. If you have any blemishes or discoloration, you have to get the Cle De Peau, the concealer. It's such a good one. And I have the shade Almond, and it just works really well on my complexion. I love it. This is another product that I am loving, and it's the Chantecaille Sheer Glow Bronze Face Tint. You guys hear me talk a lot about this, but I love this because, again, in the summer months, like I was just lucky enough that Chantecaille sent me 2 of these foundations. However, if I was just an ordinary consumer, I would have purchased the shade Vanilla, and then I also would have purchased the Sheer Glow Bronze Face Tint, and because I have a fresh fake tan, I just would have used Vanilla. I wish I showed this now. I'm sorry. But I would have just used the shade Vanilla, and I would go in with a little dot of the Sheer Bronze Face Tint. It will sheer out the product a little bit, but this has a, I want to say like a light coverage, but it's very, very perfecting and just blurring on the skin. So when you mix these together, it is gorgeous. I find this product mixes really well with any other foundation I've tried to pair it with. But this is a great way to get use of foundations if they're a little bit too light for you, because you can mix them into any product. I've never had any issue where the consistency has been altered, except maybe if you use like the Chanel Water Fresh tint, that might not work because that is so water-based. But this works really, really well. But I also love it on its own, just as a skin tint for those really natural, no makeup days. If I'm just like running a simple errand and then working from home the rest of the day, I love to wear this to the gym because I just apply this product and then a brow gel, and I don't wear anything else, and it just makes me look a little bit better, but I still just feel comfortable going out into the world with a little bit of something on my face. Or again, I just like to use it as a bronzer. So you know what? Let's just use a little bit of this as a bronzer today so I can show you it in action, since I didn't get to show you it mixed into that foundation. So I am just going to go in, let's see what brush we're going to use. I'm going to take this BK Beauty 111 brush and just dip that into here. So really get it evenly distributed onto my hand, or into my hand, so that all that product, it's already blended onto the brush, so that when I apply it onto my skin, I'm not going to need to blend out that product very much. I can just kind of pat it into the skin, and it's already blended in for me, essentially. So I'm going to have to work a lot less hard. It's just going to be a lot easier to blend into the complexion because it's already basically blended into the brush, and therefore going to apply to my skin just so much easier. Instead of you applying like those lines on your face and drawing it on and then blending out, you're just going to have to put in so much more work. And basically that's already blended out. And this is just the most gorgeous bronzer because it truly looks like my skin. Like I don't even look like I have any product on. It's such a natural bronzer. And again, I love it because this is my most blurring perfected bronzer. What a unique and beautiful product. Now, concealer, I don't have a new concealer that I am absolutely loving. Like my go-to, especially in the summer months, I just find it holds up so well. And it's just such a great concealer because it has that perfect finish where it's not like a dewy finish, but it's not a matte finish. It's just that perfect in between. Doesn't have any shimmer particles to it. This is the Surratt Dew Drop Concealer. So I like to take a little bit on the center of my hand. I do wear the shade 4. Honestly, my perfect match is in between 4 and 5. So I'm just going to mix 4 and 5 together because I'm always in between shades. I don't know why. Well, I guess that's just how my skin tone is. And I am just going to mix that together with my finger so that the pigment is mixed together evenly. And then I'm going to take my favorite concealer brush, which is this BK Beauty N16. And then I'm going to just evenly, again, distribute that like I did with the bronzer, like I did with the foundation. I promise your complexion products are just going to sit. They're going to wear better. They're going to blend better when you apply your products this way. It might take a little bit more time, And you're definitely going to need to wash your hands after, because you do not, I have done that before where I've forgotten to wash my hands and then I get it literally everywhere. So just make sure you wash your hands after. But truly, the blend is just so much better. It looks so much better on the skin because everything just looks lighter and more natural. It looks so much more skin-like when you take the time to really just pre-blend that product into your brush. I trust me, it's just going to make the world of a difference. You are going to notice. So if you try it out, and some of you guys have tried it out and let me know that you really like that technique as well. So I always love to hear your experience as well. And it's funny because I never thought I would be a brush person for concealer. I always thought I would be a diehard beauty blender girl, but I have been changed by this brush. And again, I've tried like all the popular brushes, like even BK Beauty has that like kitten paw brush that everyone's obsessed with. But I just think that's too dense for my under eyes, so product just ends up sitting a little bit heavy. So if you tried that brush and you weren't a fan, try this BK Beauty, the N16. It really is a game changer for concealer because it's not going to apply your concealer too heavy under the eyes. I just find that kitten paw brush, it just makes concealer look too obvious and a little too thick. But this really... it still gives you good coverage, but it's just going to sheer it out a little bit so that it sits on your under eyes in a natural way. I really like this. Now I'm just going to show you every step, and I don't do this on an everyday basis, but if I decide to set my under eyes, I'm going to go in with this Givenchy Prisme Libre. This is the mattifying and blurring setting powder in the shade 03 Voile Rosé. I just find it's a light enough powder that I can use under the eyes, and it never looks funny or heavy or too cakey or anything. So I have been really liking this for the under eyes especially. It's just a nice translucent powder. It's not going to add any coverage. It like slightly color corrects, but since it's basically a translucent powder, it's just very subtle. It's not a very obvious color correcting property. It just adds a little bit of brightness, I would say, but it's incredibly finely milled. And most of the time I would not advise using a pressed powder underneath the eyes. Usually that powder is just not fine enough for the under eyes. You're going to be better off with a loose powder, but this one I found actually really beautiful, especially in combination with like the Surratt Dewdrop Concealer. It just works really nicely, so I've been having a lot of success with that. And then for bronzer, I feel like I'm very, again, redundant here, but I have been really liking this YSL bronzer, and I think it's just because it's a really nice neutral bronzer. Of course, I always, like, my holy grail bronzer is this Hermes. I just love it so much. This is definitely a warmer tone bronzer, and this is also more of a skin enhancer. I feel like I should do a video on my favorite skin enhancers, but this is not really a bronzer. This is like a great transition if you want to apply a deeper bronzer, but you're maybe not getting the best blend. Like maybe that bronzer looks a little bit too stark. This is a great transition, almost like you'd apply a transition shade to your eyeshadow, like a bronzer. So you can apply a deeper bronzer and it's gonna just blend easier. This is almost that. So I really like this for skin enhancing. But if I want an actual bronzer, I've been really liking this YSL. It's just been kind of my go-to lately. And again, I just apply this very lightly because it is more of a typical bronzer shade versus a skin enhancer. This is the YSL Hyper Bronze, All Hours Hyper Bronze in the shade 2. And again, I just take my Rephr 22 brush, take a little bit of product. You always want to work a little bit at a time. And then I will just sweep this across the forehead, across the cheeks, kind of where I applied that liquid bronzer. And I'm basically just setting that down very lightly. Again, you do not need a lot of product. I just want a really light bronzed effect, and that is all. I think I'm just gonna finish the rest of my skin, might as well. So for highlighters, I kind of want to do a best highlighters video because I feel like there's been a lot of new releases, but I think the highlighter I've been the most consistent with, and why can't I find it right now? I have that Dior highlighter, which I was actually going to use today, but I can't find it. I don't know where I put it, but I've been really using that Dior highlighter. It really reminds me of the shades that were released in the Chanel palette. The formula is very, very similar. This Dior highlighter is the Dior Forever Glow Luminizer in Gold Halo. I have just been loving this highlight. It's so beautiful. Even though it's called Gold Halo, it's actually more of a pinky champagne. I feel like they mislabeled it because the Nude Halo is more yellow gold. So I really like the Gold Halo shade. I think it's absolutely stunning. This is a beautiful... oh, it's just incredibly finely milled. It is a baked gelée, So it's going to look like a cream highlighter basically, because it really just blends and smooths into the skin and just looks like one with the skin. But it definitely is more of an intense highlighter. I still love this highlight so much, but I think I've just been gravitating towards more of this Prada highlight. They are a little bit different because this is more of a lit from within highlighter. Basically, you cannot see any shimmer particles. This is not a baked highlighter. This is a typical powder formula. It almost feels like a thick powder, if that makes sense. It just feels like a very creamy powder. So it feels like it has a bit of emollients to it. And again, it just gives a sheen and just a glow, a lit from within, versus it looking wet on your skin, where the Dior is going to give you that wet glow, that dewy glow. This is more of just, I guess, it's just more of a sheen. It's just a different effect. They both are beautiful, but they're just going to give you a different quality. And the Prada one definitely leans more on the pink side. And I usually don't like pink highlighters, but for some reason, I really, really love this Prada one. It is so expensive. It's ridiculous. So I would try and get it on sale. But I'm going to use this BK Beauty. This is the N17. And I'm going to use this dark. This is a double-sided brush. So I'm going to use this dark side and just apply a little bit to my skin. So I'm applying it to the high points of the cheeks, on both sides of the face. And then with any excess product, I'll bring it above the brow. And then I like to apply a little bit down the center of the nose, the tip of the nose. And I just like the effect of applying highlighter before blush. So I'm going to also just really, with the tips of the brush, the tips of the bristles, I'm going to really work that product, really blend it into the skin so that it's not sitting on top. That's the only thing I'd advise with this powder, is that it could potentially look heavy if you don't really buff it in, because like I described it, it's kind of like that thicker powder. It's more of an emollient powder. You want to really ensure you're buffing it into the skin. Otherwise, you might notice that it looks like it's sitting on top of the skin. But as long as you work with it, it's gorgeous. So I guess that's also the benefit of this Dior one. You don't have to work as hard to get it to look like it's just lit from within. It's coming from your skin. It really, like I said, becomes one with your skin and looks like a liquid highlighter. It's just a little easier to blend. Not that it's hard to blend, but you just have to put in like a little bit more work. So for the blushes I've been loving, I've been definitely gravitating towards the same few blushes and just alternating what days I'm wearing them essentially. But I love this Westman Atelier duo in the Petal Biscuit. You guys have asked, and my favorite duo is by far the Petal and Biscuit shades. Love to use this as a contour. I love to just brush it through my eyes too, because it gives a really beautiful contoured effect. You can use it in place of an eyeshadow. I love to do that. And this is just a gorgeous neutral tone blush, and it is so perfectly neutral on my skin, so it just pairs well with everything. It's just going to suit so many different skin tones, and I love that it's a matte, buildable blush. Incredibly blurring on the skin, probably my most skin blurring blush that I have. It starts off sheer, but it is very buildable on the skin, and it's just so gorgeous. I love it. It's velvety smooth, but it doesn't swatch the best, I will say. And then I also have Coquette and Mimi, but you can see this one's not as used. I don't know why I don't use this one as much, but I just prefer the Petal Biscuit. And then I also have been loving my YSL blush. This is the shade 06, Rose Haze. And obviously I still love my NARS blush, but for whatever reason, I do like the YSL one a little bit more. And I think it's because it's a little bit more neutral on my skin, just ever so slightly. And I also like it because it's a little bit more blurring on the skin. But for the price, the NARS one is absolutely excellent. I still really love it and recommend it. But this is just what I've been reaching towards more recently. So what am I going to use today? I feel like you guys have seen the YSL blush and my Westman Atelier so much. So maybe let's do this other Westman Atelier one, but I kind of want to use the YSL one. I'm just going to use the YSL one, I think, because I really, 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 really love it. And I'm just going to apply it to the cheeks using a Rephr 05 brush. This is my favorite blush brush. So I don't know, like a lot of people ask me if I like BK Beauty or Rephr brushes more. Honestly, I just go back and forth. I have preferences. I like the Rephr brush for blush better. I like the Rephr foundation brush for foundation better, but then I like the BK Beauty concealer brush. I prefer it for concealer, so I just go back and forth. I have different preferences, but I always list the brushes in my videos so that you know. And again, this YSL blush is just so beautiful. I love that it's matte, but it's not a drying matte. And some of you guys have told me that you really don't like the shimmery blushes. Trust me, try the matte version because the matte version is so much better than the shimmer version. The shimmer version is way too shimmery. It is like it really emphasizes texture. It's like that unflattering shimmer, kind of like in the Ilia blushes that I described in my last video. It's not a flattering shimmery blush. Where the matte, they're just so easy to blend. They go on really smoothly. They're very buildable. They start out a little more sheer, but they are buildable on the complexion. It's that gorgeous blurring matte formula. And it just, again, it's not a drying matte. It's not a patchy matte. It's very easy to blend. And you can see, like, look how used mine is. It looks kind of terrible, but I just love it so, so much. It's so gorgeous. And I'm really excited because we have a new powder. This is the Dior Forever Nude Matte Filter in the shade O2 Light. I just want to advise, these run a little bit dark, so I would suggest erring on the side of a lighter color because the shade is light, but it's more of a medium shade in my personal opinion. But it's a really gorgeous powder. However, I'm not going to apply it right now because I am filming another video about this powder later. But just know this has been the powder I've been using. I've only been testing it for 5 days. So is this a holy grail? No, my Cle De Peau Refining Press Powder is that holy grail powder still. But this is something I've been testing out and really enjoying. And you guys know I love finishing off my face look, my cheek look, with a cream blush. But it has to be a certain cream blush. And the cream blushes that I've just been using and loving, I really like this Charlotte Tilbury one. It really performs beautifully as a cream blush on its own. So you can just use it on like a no makeup day. This shade specifically, Pinky Glow, is one of the only shades that does not have shimmer particles. So this is the one that I prefer. And it literally is the same color as my Valentino Very Rose. So I love to finish off a makeup look. If I want to cool things down, just with this pop of beautiful baby pink, it works beautifully over cream or over powder as a final touch. You guys know I'm obsessed with the Merit. These are the Flush Bombs. If I had to recommend one, I think it would probably be the Merit just because they're a little bit more affordable. I feel like they have such a great color range. If you want a cool tone, definitely go for Archival, which is this gorgeous mauvey shade. If you want a warm tone, Lusitano is your girl. She's that beautiful peachy beige. It's more of a peachy pink, I want to say, but it leans a little bit more peach. You can just see they're absolutely gorgeous. They leave the most stunning finish. They aren't the most long wearing on their own if you're just going to wear them only as a cream blush, but over top of powder, they just give your skin that skin texture back that sometimes is missing when you apply a powder bronzer, I really can't speak today. Words are confusing. If you put on all those powder products, sometimes things just look powdery. They look a little dull. You lose that skin-like texture, but you really can bring back to life your skin texture when you apply a product like this, or like I said, the Charlotte Tilbury, or one of my favorites has been this Chantecaille Cheek Gelée. I will say the application of this is a little bit more finicky because obviously you're going to have to squeeze it out on your hand like this. By far my favorite shade is this Euphoric shade. It's very similar to the Merit Lusitano. They look very similar, but I think Lusitano just leans a little bit more warm, and the Euphoric shade is a little bit more pinky, but they're both very beautiful. They're both those sheer. They leave that skin-like kind of dewy look that just adds that youthfulness back to the cheeks. It adds that plumping effect, so your cheeks just look healthy, and they really make the cheeks pop in this really flattering, youthful, stunning way. Again, this is something that my mom has picked up, and my mom really loves these as well. So it works really well for her. And again, it's not the type of technique that's hard to do because, like I said, my mom she's not a makeup expert. She just likes makeup because it makes her feel better, and she can use this technique and she loves it. So it's just such a gorgeous technique. So those are my favorite finishing touch blushes. However, I'm going to leave that for the last step because I want to do the eyes before I know which shade to finish off with. And for the eyes, some of my favorite products, again, these are no surprises. For quads or for palettes, if you're a palette girl, love this NARS Laguna quad. It's just so stunning. Like, these colors are just perfect for the summer months. If you're more of a cool tone person, this Cle De Peau, this is the shade 01. I forget this, Sand Dunes, I think is the name. Such a stunning palette. This is my mom's favorite, and my mom has hit pan, I think, in like 3 of the shades. She really loves this. It's gorgeous, and I will do a video on Cle De Peau, like a full roundup, and I will swatch all the palettes that I have because you guys did request that. If you're more of a one and done girl like myself, I love this luminescent eye shade in Mustang. I just can't stop wearing this lately. It's such a beautiful baked eyeshadow. You can use it wet or dry. Definitely gives a more intense look, but you can still wear it for an everyday basis because it's not as shimmery as the other luminescent eye shades from Chantecaille. I also love the Mermaid Eye Color in Copper. One of my favorites. I have used this so much and I still haven't run out, and I do have a backup. This just goes such a long way. If you want that beautiful sheen, that really sophisticated shimmer where there's no intermittent shimmer particles, so you're not going to see any glitter flecks, definitely you're going to want to grab this. And I know this isn't available in the US, but I love my Cle De Peau solo eyeshadow, single eyeshadow. This is gorgeous. This is the lightest beige shade. Can't get enough of this one as well. And then I love my NARS. This is the Total Seduction eyeshadow stick in the shade Hustle, just because this is the perfect one and done. Again, it's that very sophisticated sheen where there's none of those intermittent shimmer particles. There's no sparkle. It's just a beautiful, consistent shimmer. So it's great for daytime, great for nighttime. I think I'm going to go in with a little bit of a combo here, and I'm going to take the NARS, and I'm going to apply that all over the eye. I'm just totally, this is just a made-up makeup look. I haven't tried it out before, so I'm just going to take that all over the eye, not being too precise here, because, again, I've never tried this before. I'm going to take that a little bit on the lower lash line, just on the center, and then I'm going to take, where is my brush? This BK Beauty N13. I'm just going to run over the edges because I want to ensure that this is slightly into the crease, not completely, but just a little bit. And then I'm going to blend it out on the lower lash line as well. Could probably use a better brush for this, but I just want to do this quickly. And then just make sure that's really blended out. I am going to reach for Mustang from Chantecaille, and I am going to take this on that same blending brush. Make sure to always get the excess off just in case. Even though this luminescent eye shade, like most of the time, I find there's a lot of fallout from the normal ones, I don't find this one has as much fallout, and I think it's just because there isn't that same intermittent shimmer that a lot of the other ones have. So I'm bringing that into the outer corner and literally just brushing it along, like all across the eyelid and into the crease as well. I seriously can't get enough. I think this tone is called a shimmering cinnamon or something like that, or just as maybe it's just a cinnamon, I can't remember, but wow, I can't get enough of this shade. I just think it's so beautiful, and it's just going to, again, it's not that same intermittent shimmer that a lot of these luminescent eye shades have, so it's going to be very flattering on a lot of different people. Oh, love that so very much. And then I'm going to take a Rephr 02 brush, and just on the tip of that, I'm going to go in with that same cinnamon shade and just run it along the lower lash line here. And to finish off the look, I'm going to go back with this bronzer. This is just what I like to do. I like to use my bronzers as eyeshadows. This is why I'm not really an eyeshadow palette person anymore, because honestly, you can just get a beautiful look using your eyeshadows. If you're someone that likes a powder contour, just go ahead and use that as a deepening contour color in your eyes as well. I just find I can get so much use out of stuff I already have for eyeshadows. So obviously these are just kind of current favorites. You do not need these at all. And then I'm going to, again, take that blending brush, the N13, and dip that because I want a little bit of a matte effect on the outer corner. I just think grounding a look with a little bit of what you have on your face, it really just completes the look, makes everything slightly more monochromatic, and it just brings everything together in a really nice, beautiful way. So I went in with my Chantecaille Faux Cils Longest Lash Mascara. Again, Chantecaille, please release this in a brown. I would love that. And then I went in with the Prada. I think I'm going to actually pick this up in a brown shade because sometimes if the tight line transfers a little bit to the lower lash line, I'd just rather it be brown than black. But I have this shade, this is the Prada Durable Gliding Eye Pencil in the shade 01 Narrow, which is a black shade. And for actually, you know what? Let's finish off the cheeks here. And I think I've used the Chantecaille one so much lately, and I feel like I just almost did the same look that I did in my Chantecaille video. And so I really love this one, and I feel like it'd pair really beautifully with this look. But I'm going to take the Lusitano from Merit, and I'm just going to apply this right to the center of my hand. Again, how I like to apply all cream products using this BK Beauty N15. Again, we're going to evenly distribute it so that I barely have to blend it onto the skin. And this is just going to add a slight bit of that warmth to my complexion. It's going to pair really beautifully with the eyes. And it's just going to make my cheeks pop because of this texture that I've added onto my cheeks. It is slightly that little bit of sheen, that little bit of glow. But again, it doesn't disturb any of the makeup underneath. It's not going to disrupt anything and remove any powder or any coverage that we've applied. And it's just going to add that beautiful color, that beautiful bounce, that beautiful vibrancy and youthfulness back to the cheeks. It just really makes your skin breathe that fresh air after you've applied it with a bunch of powder. So I love this technique. I just love this look. I think it is absolutely gorgeous. For the lips, I am just going to go in with this Chantecaille Lip Chic in the shade Patience. Just such a great everyday color. So I love that one. I think, is that just all I'm gonna do? And then I'm just gonna rub it in a little bit. And I'm gonna finish it off with this YSL Candy Glaze in the shade 02. Virtually a clear lip balm, but that's just going to give my lips a tiny bit of color without it being overwhelming. And I'm going to finish off with a little bit of this Dior powder, but you're going to see, I might be like talking through it, but I'm going to mute that clip. But this is just going to add that final touch. It's going to blur. I would have added this underneath this. That's how I actually would have applied it. It would have looked a little bit better, but that's okay. I'm going to do it in a different round today. But that is everything for this video. This is like my current favorite beauty products, my top shelf, you could say, all the products that I'm just consistently reaching for. I'd love to hear from you. What are your current everyday favorites that you're just reaching for constantly? Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like this video if you like it, and I'll see you in my next video.